Good morning, everyone. As many of you probably know, yesterday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So I thought today I would talk a little bit about the life and legacy of this man who is such an important figure in U.S. history and in the history of the struggle for equality for all people. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia in 1929. He was the son of a Baptist pastor, and he himself became a pastor. And at the time that Dr. King was born, segregation, especially in the South, was the law of the land. Black Americans were not only forbidden to go to school with whites, they weren't allowed to sit in the same part of a restaurant or on a bus, or even use the same restrooms or drinking fountains. Which means that Dr. King experienced racial prejudice from the time he was very young, and of course it affected him deeply. All these experiences inspired him to dedicate his life to achieving equality and justice for African Americans and Americans of all races. Dr. King was especially inspired by the teachings of Gandhi and Jesus and advocated for peaceful, nonviolent protest. He believed that the peaceful refusal to obey unjust laws was the best way to bring attention to those laws and get people to work to change them. Dr. King and others were integral in leading the Montgomery bus boycott, which sought to desegregate buses in that city, and the Birmingham campaign in Alabama, which sought to desegregate everything from schools and restaurants to the drinking fountains. In 1963, he was a leader of the March on Washington, where over 250 people gathered to protest for civil rights. And it was at this protest that Dr. King gave one of his best-known speeches, standing atop the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, where he famously said, in part, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." It's truly an amazing speech, and I would encourage all of you to read it or listen to it. Now, about a year after the March on Washington, President Lyndon Johnson signed the 1964 Civil Rights Act, making segregation in public spaces illegal. And Dr. King, no doubt, played a huge role in getting this legislation passed. And that same year, Martin Luther King Jr. was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his work in championing civil rights. Sadly, on April 4th, 1968, Dr. King paid the ultimate price for his commitment to civil rights and social justice when he was assassinated outside the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. It's difficult for us to fathom the kind of anger and hatred that someone has to hold in their heart to be able to kill another human being whose only crime is peacefully fighting to overturn unjust laws that have been made to oppress others. Now, the struggle for equality in this country has made some gains in the 53 years since Dr. King's death. But as we've all been made aware in the past 9 months, we still have a lot of work to do. In order to remember and honor Dr. King's life and legacy, we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day on the third Monday of January, which generally falls close to his birthday on January 15th. And this day is meant to be a day of service to others. Dr. King's life and legacy gives us an example of how to work for change in a peaceful way. And even though he was just one person, he did so much to make a difference in people's lives and to work to make his dream of a better America come true. So I wonder, what does your dream look like? If your dream of a perfect country and a perfect world could come true, what would it be like? And what are some of the things that you could do in your own life to work to make that dream come true? Remember, every single one of us can make a difference. So why don't you just think about that this week? I hope you all have a great week. I will be back for another chapel message next week. Until then, stay safe and God bless.